Hello and welcome to this week's video. I'm up in the sewing room. As you can see, I have a lovely hot cup of coffee and I've had the busiest morning. So I'm not sitting down because there's laundry on that chair which I need to iron, and I'm not going to do that because, like I say, it's been a busy morning and I want to take a break and have a little bit of sewing time before I go and pick up the children and crack on with the laundry. And what I want to do is sew up the Harper cardigan. So I thought I would bring you on the journey of sewing that up. So let me just go and grab the fabric and take off my cardigan. It's so hot. Here is my beautiful blue sweater knit fabric because I'm going to start sewing for autumn anyway. And let me find the buttons, just a minute. And here are the buttons, gorgeous triangular buttons, which are going to go on the Harper cardigan. Now, it's not a cardigan that has buttons on it, but I'm going to do buttons anyway. So come along on that adventure as hopefully I manage to put buttonholes on this fabric without messing it up. I have got a few different strategies and techniques that I use for buttonholes: hand sewn buttonholes, buttonholes using a gimp thread, faux buttonholes, and just simple machine done buttonholes depending on how thick the sweater knit is. I'm going to play around with a few of those different things on hopefully some scraps of fabric and see which one might work best for this cardigan. Now, let's have a look at sizing. Now, I have remeasured myself for this project. My measurements tend to stay mostly the same, but it's always worth measuring yourself just in case. Now, I'm really focusing on bust and waist for this project as I'm going to make the cropped version, so I'm not too fussed about the hips. My high bust is about 35 inches, my waist is 30 inches. So that puts me, hang on a minute. Here we go, I found it. So that puts me in between a 4 and a 6. This is US sizing. Between a 4 and a 6 at the bust and between an 8 and a 10 at the waist. That's very helpful. So I am wearing the Juniper cardigan today. That's this one here that I was wearing a minute ago. And that fits beautifully. It's probably slightly close fitting, but I probably prefer that. So what I've decided to do is, looking at the paper pattern and measuring it up against the Juniper cardigan, I'm actually going to go for a size medium, I think, throughout, so that hopefully I can button that up from the bust down. And I want to make sure I've got enough ease through the bust that I can button that up. Obviously, if that's then too big, I can just take in the side seams. I don't think that'll be a problem. I might just obviously try it on before I add the button band and make sure that I've got enough room there. I've got my pattern. It's all been printed out by the beautiful people at Fabuloso. I love their pattern paper. It's such thin paper, it's great to work with. Usually I can ask them to just print one size for me, but I think I was so unsure about which size to go for, I just had them print all of the sizes and all of the different lengths. So I've got lots of different lines here to try and work out. So that's my next job, is to lay this out on the floor, try to work out what I'm going to cut out, and then before I do the school pickup, I'm going to try and cut out my paper pattern. So that's one piece done. I might finish the rest of this off camera and pop back on when all of these pieces are finally cut out. So I've got everything cut out. I have a front band, a bottom band, I have a front and a back, and I have a sleeve. Now I've decided to do the long sleeve because I think that's what we'll get the most wear, especially over the autumn and winter. And it's not in the instructions, but what I'm going to do is interface the front band. Now this is the knit interfacing I have. I think I have some in white somewhere, but I'm going to use black against the fabric that I've got. And you can just see it is stretchy, and so obviously with a knit fabric, to have a knit interfacing or a stretch interfacing is quite important so that it moves with the fabric. And I think that will help to stabilize that when I put on the buttonholes. Now I do have a thread crisis because I ordered some thread. I decided I was going to get some nice blue overlocking thread to go with this fabric just so that it looks beautiful on the inside as well. Anyway, my parcel has been delivered somewhere, just not here. Look what I've got. Right, it's the next day, obviously. I am wearing my French Navy goldenrod dress and I have got some threads. So let's open them. I did stock up because I was getting the blue. I also topped up my white and my black overlocker threads, which are almost out actually. So let's see. Black, white, blue moon apparently. I don't think that's too bad. It's certainly closer than navy blue or white or black, which is all that I had before. So I shall finish unboxing that in a minute. I am going to crack on with a little bit of sewing now. I think it's probably going to be a pretty straightforward construction, and then we'll get to the buttonholes. Okay, I found the start. That took a while. I've never sewn a Sinclair Patterns pattern before, so I'm quite intrigued to see how it all comes together. I do have to say there are a lot of instructions before you even begin sewing, so most of the book is kind of preparation. So yeah, see how it goes. Right, I've done 2 test pieces on my machine. I've set it up with a stretch needle. I have got Mariflex thread on just because it's my preference now for sewing with jersey, although I do have Gutermann thread, just plain polyester thread for later when I do the buttonholes. Yeah, looks perfect. Tension is good. I usually measure, so this little bit here measures 2 inches, the bit that I just sewed, and I like to check afterwards that it still measures 2 inches just to make sure that it's not getting stretched out or anything, so that looks good. So I'm going to get on with the sewing. That is my least favourite part. It's so important to stabilise the shoulder seams, but I hate putting in clear elastic. It's gone on quite well this time though, I think. So I'm going to just serge those now and move on to the sleeves. And yes, I do like to pin my jersey fabric. I still run every seam, especially a curved underarm seam or any seam really. I like to run it through the machine first and then overlock, just because it's easier to unpick if it goes wrong, and I can just control that seam a little bit more, make sure it's eased in nicely, and then I'll overlock it afterwards. Don't come at me for using pins on jersey fabric. I'm a pinner, not a clipper. Okay, so the body of the cardigan is put together. So yes, there it is. I love the colour. Now you'll see the sleeves haven't yet have their cuff on them, and I've yet to put the hemband on the sweater and the button band. I think once the button band is on, that will close really nicely. So I'm really glad I decided to go with the medium. There's a bit of excess here, but I think that'll be taken care of with the band around here. So we have a cardigan. It fits. I love the colour. The sleeves, I think they'll sit in just the right place, and the cuff piece is quite nice and long, so I think that will give me plenty of coverage over here, but about 15 minutes before pickup, so I might see if I can pop the hemband on, and then that might be me for today. Right, the weather has definitely taken a turn for the cozy here, so I am ready to finish this cardigan and get these buttons on. But first, coffee. Okay, so you can see I have finished the cardigan. It was actually a real pleasure to sew. This fabric sewed up really nicely. I do still love sewing it first on the machine and then overlocking. I just think that helps with stretching out. You can see the seams are lying really nice and flat even across this hemline here, so I'm really thrilled with how that came out. Now I did interface the button band, so that's ready to go. And what I've decided to do for this particular cardigan is to do just some knit buttonholes on my sewing machine. So we're going to give that a try. If I need to, I can just do a simple buttonhole on the machine, but when you do that, it can sometimes stretch out the fabric. So if you have got a knit buttonhole setting on your machine, I think that's probably the way to go with knit fabrics, particularly with sweater knits that don't quite have the same, I think, stability perhaps as a sort of French terry or a cotton jersey. And I did think I would show you the other thing that I've used before on sweater knits particularly, which is faux buttonholes. But on my Marlowe cardigan, you'll see I used these beautiful buttons by Pigeon Wishes, and they were quite big, and my machine did not love this fabric. And so what I decided to do was to put poppers on here and onto the other side. So actually it is a popper closure like this, and then I just popped the button on the top to hide the popper. So it still looks like it's buttoned, but it really is poppers, and that is an easy way to do buttons if you want the look of buttons but your machine is not playing nicely with the sweater knit fabric. So faux buttonholes there is one really good option, but I am going to have a go on my machine. I'm going to need my buttons, some tearaway stabilizer, my interfaced fabric, a measuring tool, and some thread. Right, so these are going to be vertical buttonholes, so I want to measure the button from the tip to the bottom, and that is about 27 millimeters. So then I'm going to take my buttonhole foot, and then I'm going to move this bit here at the back so that it measures about 27 millimeters. Okay, so we're at the machine. I've got my piece of scrap fabric to try buttonhole version 1. It's always worth trying a few different ways of doing buttonholes on knit garments because they don't always work out, or you might prefer one look over another. So the first one I'm going to try is just a stretch buttonhole on my machine. I do think a lot of machines have got stretch buttonholes, you just need to check. It just looks like that zigzag is slightly wider. It's worth playing around with your different zigzag lengths on your buttonholes just to make sure that it goes in nicely, especially on this, which is quite bouncy, stretchy, thick fabric. So I'm going to use my stretch buttonhole. I have folded this in half so that it's replicating the correct thickness on the final cardigan. And then what I've got here is a lovely long strip of my stabilizer, and it's just a tearaway stabilizer. I have used wash away before, but it doesn't always wash away and it can leave a bit of a sticky residue, which I don't love. I have put this right around and I'm going to sew the buttonhole on top of both layers. It just helps it to feed through the machine more smoothly. The machine seems to like it better if you can put this stabilizer on both sides of particularly sweater knit fabric. Now obviously you're not going to sew a buttonhole in pink, or maybe you are, on your finished garment, but I just wanted you to be able to see the buttonhole and the way those stitches are quite spread out. Hopefully you can see how the stabilizer just does tear away, and obviously then when you open up that buttonhole, the rest of the paper will tear away as well, so then you get left with a buttonhole like that. And obviously when it wasn't pink, you wouldn't notice it quite so much. It's okay, I don't love it. Because the fabric is so thick, the stitches are quite close to that middle point where I'm going to need to open up the buttonhole, and I'm not convinced that if I open that up I won't also cut those stitches, but one good thing is that is a good length for my button, so I can see that's going to fit through really, really easily. That was the correct length for the buttonhole. So what I think I'm going to try next is hand sewing my buttonhole. You can see that on the machine I sewed around the edge of this stitch, just using a long straight stitch with this pink thread just so you can see it. And I'm going to just trim that off now because I don't need it. That's just going to stabilize the fabric a little bit as I stitch and make sure that these knitted stitches don't come undone. Then I've got this thread here. This is just a Gutermann top stitching thread. It's slightly thicker. I had it in my stash. It's not a perfect match for the fabric, but it's fine. You could also use DMC embroidery floss. That's quite nice actually, so it's quite thick, so I might show you that option as well. But if you have sort of a thicker top stitching thread, what you want to do is you want to hold the thread down here. You want to pop your needle in through all of these layers of fabric here and bring it up, and then you want to wind the fabric around the tip of the needle, hold it up here so that you can then bring the needle through. You've made a bit of a loop here like this, and then you want to pull the thread nice and tightly so that that loop makes a nice stitch over here, and that's just going to be the top of your buttonhole and make it nice and secure. So you're going to keep doing that, bringing the thread down to the bottom of the needle, around the tip of the needle and over to the top. Now when you bring your needle through, you want to make sure you're on this side of the pink sort of line that you sewed here before. So you want to bring it through all of the layers of the fabric, just on the other side of that pink line, around the tip of the needle, and then draw that loop through. Easy peasy, and we're going to continue all the way up to the top. Now this kind of hand sewn buttonhole is also really good on thicker fabrics like corduroy, or even sometimes denim. If you've got lots of layers of denim at a buttonhole that really don't want to go through the machine, then a hand sewn buttonhole can be a really great alternative. I love a hand sewn buttonhole, and they actually don't take as long as you would think that they do. And then at the top of the buttonhole you want to drop your needle through to the wrong side of the fabric and bring it up And what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple of stitches across the top here just to make that top of the buttonhole nice and secure. So we're going to run it over the top of those pink stay stitches that I made, and obviously I'll make them the same color as the fabric when I do my proper buttonhole. And I'm going to do just 3 of those, and then that should hold it secure. Okay, then I'm going to bring my needle back through to the front of the fabric, just pull it nice and taut, and then I'm just going to go down the other side. So the other thing you can use if you don't have sort of top stitching thread, and can also look really nice, is some DMC thread. So I have got some here. I am going to divide my strand into 2 strands of 3. It comes with 6 strands, so I'm going to separate that. And then I'll continue from where I was up to with this top stitching thread, just so that you can see the process of sewing the buttonhole with this is exactly the same. It just gives you a slightly thicker finish on the top of the buttonhole. So maybe I will pull the thread through, we'll sort out that end. Well, I'll sort out that end later. So then you want to push your needle through, wrap the thread around, and pull tight. And obviously the benefit of doing the hand sewn buttonhole this way is you know that these bits here are obviously not going to fray. They are really secure with the embroidery thread or the top stitching thread, and you're going to have a lovely, neat buttonhole at the end of it. So you can see there the stitches made with the embroidery thread and how it's got the nice little ridge across the top here. So it's a bit hard to see because obviously I did a couple of different threads on this to show you the different options, and it's not as tidy as when I can just do it without doing it via a camera screen, but that is, I think, my preference, just because I know I can control it. I know that all of the ends of the sweater knit will be covered by thread, so they won't unravel, and it will look nice and neat and tidy when I do it on the final garment. Although this works, so if you have a machine, you're not keen on hand embroidery, this definitely works. Just make sure you use that stabilizing paper to go between the fabric and the foot of the machine. That works fine too. I just am a bit fussy about loose threads and things, and I like the garments to look really, really good. And I sort of feel like on a cardigan you're constantly opening and closing buttons, or at least I am getting it on and off in the hot, cold as you go in and out of houses and things. So I want the buttonholes to be really sturdy, and if there's one thing handmade buttonholes have going for them is they are really sturdy, strong beasts. They last for a long time. They don't actually take as long as you think. I think the first one always takes longer because you're reminding yourself how to do the hand stitch, and it takes a while to get into the swing of it, but once you've done one, the other 2, just you can fly through them. There's only 3 buttonholes after all on this, so I'm going to go and decide where I want my buttonholes to be on the cardigan, and then I shall get hand sewing. It's done, and I love it. It's finished, yay! The Harper cardigan, very straightforward pattern. It was lovely to sew. The instructions were fine. The pattern came together beautifully. The notches lined up really well. So 10 out of 10 for the pattern. Love it. The only thing I would say is it's not overly cropped. So just check how long you want to have it for your particular body. If I was short torsoed, I think this would be a bit long, but it's fine. It will look great over dresses and things, but next time I think I would probably shorten it by at least an inch before putting on the hemband. So I'm loving how the hand sewn buttonholes look. They are a great fit for the buttons, and I'm really pleased with how they went in. It was such a stormy night last night. I sat here in my chair, I watched the rain come down outside the window, and just did a few hand sewn buttonholes. I do love a bit of hand sewing on a garment, and they are going to last for a long time. If you've got any questions about hand sewn buttonholes, or if you would like another tutorial at any point, do just pop me a comment in the box below. There are many other ways to do knit buttonholes, and in fact one of the best tutorials I've seen is from Whitney at Tomcat Stitchery. She's got a really long video with lots and lots of detailed explanation about how to do buttonholes in knit garments, and I think she uses like a Ponte jersey or a French terry, which is a bit different from the sweater knit. This is a different beast. So if you are sewing with perhaps a Ponte or a French terry, then do go and give that video a watch, and I'll put it in the description box below. That's it from me and Mabel. I'm very happy to have a finished cardigan, and of course yesterday it was grim and perfect cardigan weather, and today the sun's shining. But that's okay, autumn is around the corner, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities to wear this. That's it from me for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do all the things, subscribe if you haven't, like the video, and pop me a comment below and let me know if this was helpful or you enjoyed the style of the video. It's always so lovely hearing from you in the comments, and I do like chatting with you all down there. So that's it from me. I hope you have a lovely week ahead filled with lots of happy sewing, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.